It's time we stopped asking people to protect the environment. Believe me, I'm an environmentalist for 24 years now. I know what I'm saying. During those 24 years, I have been doing more or less only one thing. Talking to millions of people, engaging thousands of community members, doing hundreds of awareness campaigns, trying to get people to protect the environment. The earth is yours, save it, there's no planet B. Or, wild animals are going extinct, save the animals. People cut down 15 billion trees a year, save the trees. All of the oceans are polluted, save the oceans. And for many years I have been using facts, science, and creativity, and storytelling, hoping to inspire people of the urgency of environmental actions. But in most cases, it did not work. In 1997, I was the first Vietnamese person ever to set foot on Antarctica to learn about global warming. And since return, I was going around talking to thousands of people. Hey, global warming is real. I saw it with my own eyes. If all the glaciers and ice caps on Earth were about to melt, then the global sea levels would rise 70 meters. And thinking I would urge people to take climate action because of all these scary facts. But I was wrong. It did not work. And then I told myself, okay, maybe people are not that easily threatened by those abstract futuristic assumptions. So let's try giving them something factual, something that already happened. So I changed my lines. Okay, the last year, 2020, was the second hottest year on record. Only after the 2016, which was the warmest year ever. And the bushfire season in 2019-2020 in Australia burned 18.6 million hectares, which was more than half the size of the whole Vietnam, or the same as the entire Cambodia, and killed about 1 billion animals. But most of the time I present these facts, people have this response like, so what? In April this year, the CO2 levels in the atmosphere reached the highest level in 23 million years. So what? 1 million species are now at risk of extinction. So what? Even when I tell people in Ho Chi Minh City where I live, like, hey, Ho Chi Minh City is the third fastest sinking capital city. So what? Vietnam is the fourth largest contributor to marine plastic pollution globally. So what? Okay, I have to admit that not everyone says so what. A lot of young people, my volunteers, they got inspired and then they committed like, okay, I will change my habit. I will say no to plastic bags or plastic straws. I will bring my own shopping bags. But after a while, they would realize how lonely, how weird, how different they look from the crowd. When going to a coffee shop, they are the only one bringing a ceramic cup. Or when checking out at a supermarket, they are the only one having their own reusable bags. And they would look at all other customers around them taking dozens of plastic cups and plastic bags, and they think, my change would not mean anything. Why do I have to make so much effort like this? And then they would lose motivation, and then they would think like everybody else. Why should I care about some fish being killed by the plastics? And then they go back to saying, so what? In 1930, there were 10 million wild elephants in Africa, and today there are only 400,000 left, mostly because of human activity. So what? And when we ran a campaign to call on the Vietnamese people to stop consuming rhino horns, to help end the massacre in Africa, I would assume that using these heartbreaking images of a rhino being killed would make consumers change their mind. But they keep saying, so what? And I started to wonder why. Why are all these scary numbers are only statistics to many people. Why can no emotions be triggered by these images? I think there can be two reasons. Reason number one, anthropocentrism. It is a belief that human beings are the central or the most significant entity in the world. We think that we are more superior to any other species. It is also called human supremacy. So we let ourselves kill an elephant for the ivory, or a rhino for the horn to cure some disease, or kill a whole lion just for fun or for showing off. We let ourselves cut down trees in the Amazon forest, where thousands of species reside, to grow soya or raise cattle for food. We don't feel the pain of nature because we think we are superior than any other animals and the plants living in the forest, and that the animals are not our friends, or at least nothing related. We don't feel the pain of nature, so when we look at this picture, we would see the largest wooden bed in Vietnam, which can be sold at $140,000 US. We don't see how this beautiful piece of wood must have come from a wonderful, beautiful tree that has lived through hundreds of years in the forest, providing shelters and protection for so many local villagers and monkeys and birds and reptiles and so many other plants and fungi. Yeah, human supremacy exists. After all, we landed on the moon, we could build giant dams to make water produce electricity for us. Massive cities rising up on the desert. And we are going to fly to the Mars very soon. We are ultimate winners. Reason number two, the thinking. Why do I have to care? What does it have to do with me? The Amazon has lost 18% of its original forest cover. So what? I don't live there. I live in the Mekong Delta. Okay, the Mekong Delta is going to disappear by the end of this century. So what? I'll be long gone by then. The tiger is going extinct in Vietnam. So what? Why do I have to worry about some wild animals I never see? Plastic killed another whale. So what? I have a lot to worry about my life already. There lies the problems. People don't see the connections. They don't see how an animal in the ocean can be anything related to them. They don't see why they have to think about the trees or the rivers or the birds, why they already have a lot to worry about in their life, their jobs, their children, their opportunities, their prices. And why do they have to worry about some really far future when they're not even sure what will happen tomorrow? And that's why it will not work if we tell people to protect the environment. It will not work when we try to convince them, save the birds, don't eat the pangolin, stop polluting the rivers, because they don't see the connections between these and themselves. Let me refer you back to something I mentioned earlier, anthropocentrism. Okay, true, the humans have conquered the earth. We will soon conquer space. But don't you remember? We were brought down to our knees by a virus, coronavirus. 260 million cases and 5.2 million deaths. COVID-19 was a wake-up call to reconfigure the relationship between humans and nature. If we keep the mindset that we are superior, that we can keep on encroaching on the natural world, this pandemic will not be the last. We think we are above nature, but in fact we are only one species living in it. We have been taking nature for granted for far too long. According to a study published in 2018, the world's whole population account for only 0.01% of all living things by weight. But we have caused the loss of 83% of all mammals and half of all plants. Yes, the connections are right there. We eat wild animals. Zoonotic pandemics will make us pay the price with lost lives and economies. We try to increase GDP at all costs. Now, 9 out of 10 people globally are breathing polluted air. We use too much single-use plastics. Now, 90% of all table salt globally has microplastics. We cut down protected forests. Wow, the floods will come and take everything we have. You might debate that, oh, it is not fair to say that people do not care about environmental crisis. Because, look, every year, so many people donate to all the victims of the floods and typhoons and pollutions. But it's only how we respond to this environmental crisis. We support the victims because we feel the mercy for the less fortunate people, but not because we care why it happened. So it is short-term. It is a lot more important to prevent this crisis from happening rather than sending the rescue. And it's not only more important, prevention is always cheaper. So according to a calculation by IMF, the end of 2020, the total global losses caused by COVID-19 globally for 5 years go up to 24.4 trillion US dollars. While according to another study by 100 economists and environmentalists, to save 30% of all the lands and oceans of the world, to protect the biodiversity and prevent the next pandemic for 10 years, costs only 1.4 trillion US dollars. Right now, people in most countries are getting vaccinated as we speak. Economies and human activities are going back to recovery. We will soon forget the nightmares that we had. And everyone is happy about going back to normal. Okay, we have vaccines for COVID-19. Do we have vaccines for climate change too? Don't go back to normal, because what we want to go back to is not normal at all. How many pandemics does it take for us to see the connection between nature and human being? How many floods does it take for us to see the value of protected forests? How many people have to die from air pollution for us to see why we have to go for clean development? No, environmental protection is not about the trees or the air or the fish or the birds. They're all about us. Environmental crises are, in fact, human crises. For too long, NGOs like mine have been trying to call on people to save the environment, to save the planet. We should stop doing so. We should change the narratives. I mean, we are not protecting the trees, the oceans, the animals, the climate. We are protecting ourselves, our own survival, our own tomorrow. Saying, don't eat the pangolin because they are going extinct does not work. But saying, don't eat the pangolin because you can get a zoonotic disease will work better. Saying, don't use plastic bags because they will choke the turtles will not be as effective as saying, don't use plastic bags because the microplastics in the air and in the food chain can inflame your lungs and increase your cancer risks. Saying, reduce your emission to help slow down climate change will not move people as much as reduce your emissions so that you don't have to abandon your house one day and become climate refugee. I'm a lucky person because I travel a lot in my work. I had the opportunity to see the breathtakingly beautiful places on Earth, and I would feel so awed by how this beautiful planet, our only home, provides us with its natural resources. But as Mahatma Gandhi said, Earth provides enough to satisfy every man's needs, but not every man's greed. On July 29 this year, humanity has used up all the natural resources that Earth could generate in the whole year. So yeah, after July 29, so today, yesterday, tomorrow, next week, next month, whatever we are consuming, we are borrowing them from our own children. And again, I am not talking about saving these natural resources. I'm talking about protecting our own tomorrow, our own life. The UN say that we only have 9 years left to prevent the irreversible damage from climate change. When will we be able to understand what that really means? You don't need to be a politician leader. You don't need to be an NGO founder or a climate hero to protect the environment, because forget the environment. Think about yourself. Climate change can be really macro, really big to deal with, but it will affect every single one of us. So we have to make the first step instead of ignoring it. Anything, you can do like anything. Turn off the lights, bring your own your own cup, bring your bags, plant one more tree on your patio, or reduce your meat intake. You can do anything small because you do it for yourself, not for the environment. You can start small, but you should start, and we should all start together. Thank you.